This week on the Notorious Scoundrels podcast.
So yeah, I'm on board Naked Train, Naked Rebel Trooper Train.
Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a podcast focused on tactics and competitive play for Star Wars Legion. Hosted by Kyle Dornbos, Michael Barry, and David Zelenka, with Jay Shalansky, the man behind the glass.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Mike and David, and also Evan. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
So this is the illustrious Evan from the Fifth Trooper Evan, our brother podcast.
Ooh.
You're on here because you did a thing in Canada with some clones, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah.
That sounds like it could be all sorts of not great stuff. Thing in Canada with clones. I hear their healthcare is better.
It is 3 hours deep, man. You don't know what I did.
All right.
You're at some like doomsday prepper farmhouse anyway, so
Oh my gosh.
God only knows.
So good.
with an actual rodent in house. Is that accurate?
Okay, yeah. So it was going to be at the Hooded Goblin. The renovations ended up being super delayed. So one of the people who works there, I think, knows the people at this horse ranch. So I get the new invites. We're driving, and I'm thinking, we'll just get a coffee or something by the place. It's got to be near town. It is not. It was in the middle of like deep tundra, but on the plus side, so I drove up. And they had a couple ropes across the road, and I'm thinking, is this a place? So I'm, looking around. I see people getting out to ride horses. Then like a herd of horses runs by through the ropes to the other side of the road, and I'm like, this cannot be the right place. And turns out a guy waves me over. He's like, hey, you here for the Legion event? And so it turns out was right spot. We get in there into this like, it does kind of look like a fallout shelter. A little bit, but actually ended up being super nice inside. But it's also super country. So there was at one point there were baby possums climbing on people's bags, and someone shouted like, "Oh God, possum!" And like when the owner's like, "Yeah, man, just grab them and throw them out if you don't want them on your stuff. They're kind of like house pets." So honestly, it was probably the most Canadian thing I've ever seen, but it also was a super good time.
How many people were there?
26.
That's a good turnout for this was a Prime Championship.
RPQ.
Okay, so not the fancy new kit with the Luke and Vader cards and stuff. Yet.
No. I desperately wanted it to be that, but it was the RPQ kit. They had originally I think like 30 signed, but they had a few fallouts, so they were gonna have a pretty decent turnout if everyone showed up.
That might actually be the largest RPQ I've heard of.
Yeah, and honestly, it was only like it was a couple of, like Luke Cook and Chris Cook came up, and they brought 2 or 3 folks from Buffalo with them. So and myself and my friend Connor. So it was only like 5 or 6 of us from the U.S. So it wasn't like we took a bus up there to go there. So it wasn't too big of an impulse. They have a big Legion community there.
So what you're saying is have your tournaments at horse ranches. High attendance will follow.
Dude, legit. Like, they had a bathroom, like an outhouse kind of thing. It was actually very nice, but you had to like walk outside the building to go to it. So I kind of got lost the first time I went looking for it, and I ended up down by the horses again. But hey, I got to see horses. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. it's actually
I'm trying to like grasp this, and it's not happening. I'm like, I would have turned around. I don't know.
No, man, it's actually like I came from I used to own a horse back when we were younger. Well, I didn't, my folks did. And so it's kind of cool to get to see him again, and I spent a lot of time around farm, so to me it wasn't really like a thing. To some other folks there, maybe, but honestly, got in there, they had a whole kitchen they were just cooking food out of for lunch. So it was actually like they had drinks all around. They were walking around like, hey, do you want a soda? Do you want a water? What do you need? It was pretty cool, man. Like from outside looking in, it looked a little weird, but once you got there, they threw a really solid event.
So what did you bring? What kind of list?
I brought Grand Republic. I brought some clones. I took it was Obi and Rex in 6 cores, and I ended up going 4-0 with them.
So I think that. So first of all, that's impressive because I think you're the first person to actually get an invite with clones. If I'm not
That'd
mistaken.
make me super jazzed. All this time of all my grousing about how I play them and I can't win a game with them, and then Rex comes out, and then I just go in cold with them, and it turns out really well.
So let's
Rex
talk
was
about
the key.
Yeah, let's talk about Rex real quick because he was out just a few days ago on Friday, right?
Yeah, we actually, my buddy Connor picked us up each one, and we built them in the hotel the night before, and got them on the table. So that was my first run. Was Rex was at this tournament. The big play was put scout intel recon intel on him, scout him up with 2 Z6 squads, and then take a like a middle point of the board that was going to have high traffic or a choke point, and just make it really miserable to try to get through.
Do you want to talk about like how you use his command cards and such?
Oh, sure, yeah. So my list was Obi-Wan Kenobi with aggressive tactics and force reflexes, Rex with strict orders, recon intel, 2 Z6 squads with the extra trooper, the 5th trooper, and then 4s with the DC 15s. And so what I would do is my main plan was take the 2 Z6 and Rex, scout them toward an objective or a choke point, and have Obi with the rest of the guys kind of come up the back. Really what I would do is I'd scout up, and then I'd measure ranges. And if it looked like a good time, turn 1, I'd probably play take that clankers to get that range 4 like barrage. Because Rex would have an aim on him that he can share because he's a clone trooper. So you would take an aim with your Z6 and then get that extra range boost when you fired, and then you have another aim you could pull off Rex to get some extra damage. Or in one example, we had advanced positions where you get the scout, and I saw the Tauntauns coming, so I did Call Me Captain, or there's one pip, I think that's right, I probably got the name wrong, where he gets to fire support indefinitely. And so he got like 5 or 6 shots off just my Z6s and my DCs, just letting Rex get some extra 3 dice in there. So he was really like the key. And then I only really lost him in one game. I actually got to attack with Obi, and that's never really happened before because normally he dies before I get to a fight. So that felt pretty good. Playing Jedi, turns out that's pretty good. Didn't really think, didn't really know that. That's, all of Endless's Luke runs I'd watch and be very envious of. I'm like, wow, that's what it's like to actually like do something with Luke. Now I can kind of feel that power. I get it now.
Thank you.
I understand.
Yeah, man, he's a beast, but Obi is too. Obi's like super Luke. He's pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's I used him to keep Rex alive because once he got out there, Rex would be a target, and so I would do whatever I can to try to keep him alive. The really nice card actually, which came in clutch, even his 3-pip, all of Rex's cards are great. His 3-pip were not programmed, where he gets Inspired 2 and he recovers when he activates, plus handing out 4 orders. So if they keep hitting you with mortars or Bosk or something to try to suppress him out, he clears it, and he can more or less clear one off another group too when he rallies. So Rex is a beast, man. He's really good.
Did you use Obi-Wan to curtail sniper fire?
I actually only ran to one list with snipers. Most of it was mortars and shores. But yeah, the one match with snipers, I did. It always feels bad when you're pulling one off and then you just roll blank, so he's just taking a damage. But anything I could do just to keep Rex alive, because he's, as much as I'm touting him, 3 good sniper shots or 1 good lightsaber swing, and he just goes down. So that he really needs Obi to try to keep him in the battlefield, to at least get all of his cards played, and then hopefully by then you've swung something. So if he dies, it's not the end of the world.
Did you feel like 8 activations was a problem for you?
I honestly, like the games I came up with, most of them were 10. One was 11. And yes, actually it did stink, because after a while I just watched someone play the game. So if I did a fire support to remove a unit or to really try to put some damage in, I think one game I double fired support off Rex's Gunslinger with the 2Z6 squads to try to get that crit to hit. So one shot went in, a whole Z6 squad crit to hit. Then he shot the other target, and the next Z6 squad crit to hit. And then so that's 3 activations down. And then after that, I just kind of watched the other guy play for like 4 activations. It feels bad, but if you can make that support fire really mean something and remove a unit, that kind of makes up for it. But it does feel bad when you just like you're done and you realize, oh, Bosk, Veers, 2 storms haven't gone yet. Now what are they going to do that I can't really react to until next turn?
Well, nonetheless, it sounds like you did a good job playing around that limitation.
Yeah, it's honestly, it was just like when you play 8 activation clones, from my experience anyway, you just really got to play the objective. Like whatever the, they'll start killing you heavy, but you just got to run and just really just play the objective. Take turns where you're just moving guys out of line of sight where you're not taking a shot. Anything you can do just to try to get the points in your favor. But yeah, it's just I look at the cards. I got not breakthrough. I'm sorry. 2 recover the supplies and 2 intercept transmissions. And just anything I could do just to make sure I won those. It actually is a pretty powerful feeling to take Rex and 2 guys up to like a key position or intercept right in the middle and just make it like real miserable for them to try to get up there.
What was so you played 4 rounds over the course of the day. Were there any issues with time or anything like that?
No, actually, they just did a hard dice down after the 2 hours. All of my games ended with like half an hour to spare. They were when the combat happened, it was very quick and bloody. I had one guy move a E-web up, no aims. I'm like, he had a full shot on a group of clones. I'm like, no big deal. 6 hits, 6 blanks, 1 clone squad gone. That made me very sad. But that's all my games are like really high intensity, and most of my games I had like 45 minutes to spare. Like we just played real quick.
Wow, cool. You got any like bits of general advice for other clone players out there, and specifically those looking to use Rex?
Yeah. Try to make little cool scout teams with Rex. Like when the shotguns come out, or I'm sorry, I keep calling them that. The new clone weapon that's 2 black and a white with Pierce 1.
DP23.
Yeah. When that comes out, I'll be switching the Z6 for those. Because I think a take that clanker range 3 shot with Rex might be pretty sick. Make a scouting party. I really like that, and then have Obi come up with whatever kind of gun arrangement you want. Really try get aggressive with Rex. But if you see like an open lane, just don't go down that. I know that sounds counterproductive from what I'm saying, but try to get into the fight so Rex can really get those. Try to make a clutch turn for his infinite fire support turn, so that you can almost use him every shot. I think one game I got like 6 fire support shots off with him, and that was nuts. Like the value off that. But another game I had him die in like 3 shots. I only got to play 2 of his cards. Just keep trying. Eventually, we'll get the unit packs and the tank and all that good stuff. But right now it's just experimenting. I mean, I took this kind of because I thought it was okay, but I'm kind of still playing around with Barks. Maybe a few Barks and some clones, and when the Phase 2s comes out, one of those might be fun. I don't know, but it's just keep trying different stuff. What I did worked for me, but maybe like Z6 is better and use those for more points. But just experiment with them, because right now it's kind of fun because there's no like set like this is a good list yet. So anything you do could be good.
Which commander did you put aggressive tactics on? I gotta know.
So I did Obi, and I kind of regretted it. I thought it was going to be good because in my mind, when I had to do his 1 pip, let's say I was out in the middle of like my area, if I had to get like a move in or I had to win an activation, I'm like, well, at least you'll get a surge. Or if I only had 2 units around him when I did his hello there, I could get a surge plus a standby and a dodge. But I really think the better one is to put it on Rex. So when you do that, we're not programmed, or even pretty much anything he's got. it really benefits them more. So if I play the list again, I'm going to switch that. But yeah, it was I thought about it, and I was actually playing it like middle of the term. I'm like, I've made a mistake, but you can't switch, so you just got to kind of ride it out.
And just one point of clarification too on Tank, that clankers, it sounds like this is what you're doing, but this is a pretty common rules question as far as like the difference between having and spending an aim token.
Oh yeah, so you have to take the aim, right? You can't grab it off a clone.
Yeah, you have to actually take an aim action with the unit that you want to extend range on.
Yeah, my buddy Connor was playing clones, and a guy played Take That Clankers, and in response, the other guy had played Annihilation Looms, so he couldn't take the aim to get the bonus range off of it, right?
There's also some like workarounds, like you can give somebody like electro binoculars, and you can kind of like gain additional aims that way. So you can like move and shoot with the extended range bubble, because you already have.
Or like
Rex has a built-in workaround with tactical.
Well, Rex himself does.
Oh
yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
Right, but
or even that new add-on trooper who gives you the free action to take a dodge or aim. You could use him just to pop before he shot in case you're suppressed.
Yeah, the specialist, clone specialist.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so you don't have to actually like there are ways besides taking an aim action to get it, but the unit that is extending their range has to themselves have an aim token. They can't spend it from a nearby clone unit. So
yeah, that's how I read it, and that's how I played it. It gets confusing because all the clone sharing, shenanigans. It seems like you should be able to do it the other way, but I'd rather be wrong but play it fair than play it wrong and then win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's also notable that you don't actually have to spend the aim token to gain the effect, I'm pretty sure. So like if you have an aim token and you're like you're the unit that's like eating standbys, you can like extend your range each time you fire standby technically.
Okay.
That's a little bit of a corner case, but
that's good.
Won't be a corner case when phase 2's come out.
Yeah, it won't be. That's gonna be hot.
It's gonna be all right, cool. Well, let's move on real quick, ever so briefly, to Invader League. We are in the throes of eliminations. I managed to not get eliminated my first match.
Well done.
Good job.
So my Jedi Luke experiment survives another day.
Yeah, he like straight up put the game on his back.
Yeah. I think David asked me after the game, what's it feel like to be running 800 points of Luke?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what it felt like. I think after that game, I'm on board the Naked Rebel Trooper train.
Yeah.
My Z6s didn't like die, but they also didn't do anything.
I mean, at least you weren't playing 800 points of Tauntauns, right? Like,
that's true. Yeah.
At least there's that.
Right. I was up against a Shogun line, and Z6s just don't damage 3-up saves, which is red with Surge, which was like everything that the other guy had because of aggressive tactics. So I think my snipers and Luke got probably 90% of the kills. So yeah, I'm on board naked train, naked rebel.
Yeah, Pierce is good, man. Like no doubt.
I almost would have, at least in that specific game. That map, Tatooine was a little like more dense on line of sight blockers. I almost would have rather had like fleets than the Z6 Rebel Troopers.
Blasphemy. He's speaking straight blasphemy.
I do love me some fleets, so I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
It's too bad you can't put the new captain in a fleet unit.
Oh man,
why not?
Make them real playable.
Because you can't. It doesn't say Rebel Trooper only.
I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah. Here, let's.
Okay, maybe I'm smoking something. I don't know.
All right, are we talking about the specialist?
Yeah.
Already, yeah, but yeah.
They're specialists for like rebel troopers and stormtroopers. Like it's a rebel trooper specialist.
Yeah, it's not for fleets.
Stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Special
All
is
right,
back.
all right.
Yeah.
You're right. All right, my bad.
You're stuck with an officer.
I know I'm right. I'm always right. That's how it works.
All right, you're right. Yes, it is Rebel Trooper only. I'm sad. I think you probably still just want an officer anyway.
Yeah, that's
for
fair.
that setup, but yeah.
Who's got time for that though? When tauntauns are 90 points, I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I love it. Like the Z, if the Z6 falls off, like the number of viable rebel units like shrank from like 4 to 3. Like,
well, yeah, it's like I'm like I wish.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I mean that's an overstatement, but you know, we've lost it. We've lost the stalwart, is what I'm saying. Our faction has.
The real question is gaining operative Luke actually a +1 in that degree? Because like you can't take both Lukes on the same list.
It's a +1 because we have to take an officer as a tax for playing operative Luke.
Yeah, I mean,
the rebel officer's not viable because the rules say you have to take one.
Yeah, he was crappy. He did also nothing. He killed one short trooper actually. At the very
I
saw you shoot with him.
I saw.
I was like, what is he doing?
Well, I mean, the game was pretty much over at that point. It was garbage time.
No.
But yeah, he did kill something actually, quite to my surprise. But he did literally nothing else the rest of the game.
It always feels good when it actually kills something. You're like, yes, points, value achieved.
I mean, technically, he eliminated an 84-point activation, so
There you go, man. Paid for himself.
I think Luke killed the other 4 guys, but
yeah.
Once Luke is stuck in there, you almost want the officer to die so you can have his courage.
Right. I was thinking to myself, please snipe my officer in the open. I dare you, because then I'll never panic.
Yep. Yeah, man. Jedi Luke is good. Also, the emplacement withdrawal rules are kind of silly, and
yes, they are.
I did abuse them.
No. First of all, that was not the silliest thing that happened in this game. And I would encourage our viewers to go back and watch the tape. But the silliest thing that happened in the game, and it took me a little bit to figure out what the hell happened, was you scaled up a ladder and then jumped off of scale.
Yep.
Which is like, not supposed to be a thing.
What?
But like the house... Well, the house rules for Invader allowed it to happen, and I took like one look at it. I really had to think about it because we had like the audio turned off, and I was like, and yeah, that's absurd. Shouldn't be a thing ever.
I think I probably could have ended up in the same area without the skill, but I thought it was cool.
I mean, sure. I just like. That is a rules interaction that shouldn't be a thing.
A scale 1 move into a jump, the next move is pretty amazing. I got to say that much.
Yeah, I don't know. Not a.
I mean,
understood.
Yeah, they're the only unit right now is Grievous with scale, and he doesn't have jump. So unless you're doing what we're doing, which is calling ladders, giving you scale, that's not even a thing that's possible. But it is legal rules as written because scale gives you a move action, and you can jump off a move action. So.
I'm not saying it would be illegal. I'm just saying that we might want to revisit those ladders.
I enjoyed having a Jedi Luke with both jump and scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Enough about that game. We also have an interview, which we're going to hit here in a minute, with the illustrious Brendan Franz, who runs pretty much every major Legion event, and just got finished running Warfare Weekend. So why don't we go ahead and jump into that? And we're back with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Brendan Franz. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. Myth and you can't be talking about me, but I'll take it.
If you had to pick one, would you prefer to be a myth or a legend?
Ooh, I used to have a really good quote about this, but I don't have it, so let's go with legend.
All right. I mean, I guess a myth would imply that you're not real, right? So I think it'd be better to be a legend.
Yeah. But then whatever you did like actually happened, and if it was like terrible, I don't know. Anyways, so you were TOing Warfare Weekend.
Yep. Another one in my belt, and it was a good time, man. I really wish we could have seen you there, but We had 23 people, which was not the numbers we were looking for, but honestly, I don't think it detracted from the event. Honestly, it might be one of the most fun I've had, save, like an event in Syracuse there back at Northeast Open. It's just, it's the usual faces, couple of new ones. And it was just real personal. We had a really, really good location. The con itself was a lot of fun. So, despite the size, I don't think anybody really left disappointed.
No, it sounded like everybody had a great time, frankly, from everybody I've talked to, which is awesome. I actually regret not going a bit, but I unfortunately had some stuff I had to handle that weekend. So, you've TO'd a bunch of major tournaments, almost all of them at this point. What would you consider to be some of the like largest challenges that you face as a tournament organizer and, as a head judge at these events?
Finances are one. Making sure that I can get there. How do I get a pallet full of terrain across the country? And then how do I get it sent back to where it needs to go? So that's a big burden that happens behind the scenes. And then also just setup and teardown is a lot. And so, every once in a while I'm able to get some good help. And then other times I'm just in there with my earbuds in, for however long it takes, and just setting it up by myself. So, that's kind of logistically one of the headaches that I have to deal with. And then, making sure that we have enough terrain for the number of players. So knowing that we had smaller ticket sales, I knew that I didn't have to prep and ship as much terrain. But if we had had larger numbers, I would have needed to start sourcing terrain and contacting local stores or saying, hey, Luke Cook, while you're crossing the border, can you please bring a couple of tables to Toronto? So things like that kind of go into setting it up. And I think that's one of the things that sets this apart from any other game that FFG does is just the amount of extra that has to go into running an event. But as far as questions, man, it's always cover. It's always line of sight. It's always range. Those are the big ones. And then usual just interactions. Hey, how does this work? What's the timing on this? But most of the judge calls are just almost always somebody doesn't have the ability or desire to go check it or argue it, and so that's my job to solve that.
How do you go about identifying tables and organizing all of the tables into themes and essentially making sure that you have enough terrain individually for each table?
So back originally when I started making Google Docs and spreadsheets. And one of the things that I learned with you at Las Vegas Open was you should know what color mat needs to be on what table before you get there. Because when you start pulling things out and saying, oh, I assigned a lava table here, but you don't have a mat color ready for that, that really stunk. Like, I don't remember how many extra, like, we probably lost at least an hour just trying to figure that out the first time. So I got smart and started figuring out, like, table 1 is going to be Mustafar. We're going to have a lava mat on it, and we're going to put the lava terrain on it. And so a lot of that I prep, and I have a cheat sheet that it's either a note on my phone or I'll print a physical one out, and then that way I can show it to other people if people are helping me out. And just being prepared for that matters so much, because otherwise you end up setting up terrain for 4 hours, and nobody wants to do that. So yeah, it's just little cheat sheets that you can use to cut corners.
So you actually have a plan for each specific table, not only what type of terrain is going to be on it, but where specifically that terrain is coming from and who it's coming from.
Yeah. And so, like, I even have shorthand notes. So, like, one of my favorite shorthand notes is Jon Snow, and it's John Bushman's snow table. And so I have mental head notes there. Previously it was Brendan Scariff, and now it's Scariff Beach Resort for Critical X, because we have the Critical X headquarters building that goes on that table now. So I keep notes for that, and so like I'll have 2 tables with big Tatooine buildings. If War Corgi is bringing a table, I'll say 2 tables from War Corgi, and I'll know what color mat that I need to have ready for him if he's bringing that in. And it's the only way to keep sane and organized, because when you show up and other people are bringing you terrain too, they're going to look to you for direction if you're in charge. And so I need to be able to give people answers.
So, you talked a little bit about, gathering the terrain for the event and the tables. Could you talk a little bit about, what does your day look like in one of these events as an organizer, kind of from the time you get up to the time that you either tear down and go home, or the day's, over and you go back to the hotel?
Man, that's a great question. So like, usually my plan is I'm usually traveling by air, now that I've learned that driving across the country is not as much fun as it sounds like. And it was actually a good time, but unrealistic. But so I try to get an early flight coming in, and I try and get a late flight going out. And so if I'll show up and end up with, I want to get there maybe about noon, and then kind of recon the room, meet whoever the event hosts are. So whatever company or group is putting on the show, I want to meet them. Show me the room, show me where is registration, right? Like where are players going to go and try and find to get their badge. So I'm usually the first one there, so I'm the one in Discord or Facebook saying, hey, here's where you get your badge, here's where you go to the room. Because in my case, it's probably my first time being in that venue, and for a lot of other people, it probably is too. So I spend that time, hey, where's the prize support kit, right? Like, people are going to want to have prizes, so I got to go track that down. And then, if I ship my terrain in, where's my terrain? And so then once I've got that done, it's all right, where's my TO table going to be? Where's, where do I want to set up tables and kind of prioritize? And then it's just a matter of getting the mats on the tables. And then usually most of the boxes are packed in such a way where I can set a box near a table, and we can say, okay, pull everything out of that and put it on the table, or pull most of it out and set that up. And so I spend however many hours that takes setting up tables, and then hopefully I'm done by like dinner time, and then maybe get dinner with somebody before the event if I can. If not, I'm just going to eat by myself and go to my room and get a shower in, try and sleep, because I'm probably shifting schedules and I don't sleep so good anyway. And then like 6:45, wake up the next morning, get some breakfast, and be the first one in the room, because I usually open the doors by 8. So that's just like, that's a quiet me time. Or maybe if I bump into somebody, I'll eat with them. But like just kind of getting in that headspace of like, you got to put a show on today. And I used to do that with Boy Scouts and other stuff. So I'm kind of comfortable with that zone of like, all right, we got a big show today. Let's get excited, let's get ready, and then be ready when people are showing up, because they're looking to you. Like, you set that tone for how excited or enthusiastic you are. And so just being ready to answer questions and deal with anything from a real simple problem to, oh my gosh, how is the event going to go forward? If we don't solve this. So it's just putting that problem out as we go. And then it's an all day. Like, I don't get a lunch break, because we usually do paint judging during lunch. So I eat when I can and how I can. Sometimes I bring snacks if I can. And then my first real meal of the day is probably dinner after everything's wrapped for the evening. And I just rinse and repeat until we're ready to take off. And then, so whatever the closing day is, I try and get a late flight out. And, as soon as we can wrap that event, I'm trying to get everything back in the boxes and back on the pallet and wrapped and ready to roll. So it's a rigmarole status now, though. Like, I've done it enough where it just rinse and repeat, and learn from previous mistakes and try and correct them in the future.
When you're actually setting up like a specific table, what
Yeah.
do you look to do as far as the location of specific terrain pieces? What would you consider to be like a good mix of area terrain and line of sight blockers? Are there any general rules that you use as far as where to put certain types of pieces and where not to put certain types of pieces?
Yeah, and that's always a learning process. And I actually, at this past one, I was working with Brad Nerfly, and shot a little quick video. And I think it'd be really cool to get some videos of like he builds tables, I build tables, we build tables completely differently. Um, but for me, I've set these up enough times where I kind of know what my big things are, what my little things are. I might call it like a Luke Hill or a Boba Hill. So height 1, height 2 issue. And I always like to, I like to make sure that if I get down at eye level, left to right, I want a couple of firing holes, that maybe might go across the board. But I try to minimize that. And I always try to, if I can, I try to not elevate the center on, I would say, 95% or more of the tables. Every once in a while, I like to throw a monkey wrench on the boards, and kind of make something a little bit imbalanced or a little bit not fun. And the goal there is that I want people to think about turn 0, and I want people to think about, how are you deploying? How is your opponent going to deploy? How is my list going to work for this table? How is my opponent's list going to work for this table? And I like to throw 1 or 2 traps out there that if somebody's not paying attention, they might make that mistake. And I think in challenging people to be the better general, I think personally that's important. And I know there's definitely people out there who will disagree with me on that. So, I try to be respectful of that and make it not the norm, but I do like to throw one in now and then. But I like to make sure that, long wise from my bottom right to my far left, you're not going to have firing lines there. That deals with what advanced positions, major offensive deployments like that. And also be mindful of, how is battle lines going to look? How is long march going to look? Long march is kind of hard at some of these cons because you can't necessarily access the other side of the board so well. So I try to be mindful of that a little bit. But ultimately, if somebody chooses that deployment, it's on them. And I try and be mindful of that as well as, like, if players don't have access to all 4 board edges, is this just going to be a royal pain to play on? And I try to keep that in mind as well, because that's not something you can do that online, but you can't do that in person. So, I mean, really, I like to have opposites. So, like, sometimes I like to have a donut hole in the middle and a kill zone where people are going to have a bad time if they run into the middle. And then other times I want people to be able to bunker down in the middle and fight outward. But I like to have that variety because I randomize table numbers. So in all, it's a sum of all the parts of all the tables, not necessarily just the one table I'm looking at.
So you just wrapped up Warfare Weekend. Let's talk about judging that event. I'd like to know what were some of the most common rules questions at Warfare this weekend.
Well, we had the big detachment one. Did you guys get a chance to see that picture?
Are you referring to a picture where there is a mortar on top of a cliff?
Yeah, way up high, and outside its deployment zone too. So, that one was a big hot topic, and so, that was a question of, hey, is this working the way that they want it? And ended up getting a reply back from Luke and Alex, and they said, yep, that's exactly how the rules work. Rules is written. So, confirmation there. That yes, that was a legal deployment and the right call was made on the field. I think it's an extreme example, but so that was legal. I don't think it ultimately played too much on that particular game, but a lot of the rules were really just a lot of cover, line of sight checks, and people just didn't necessarily have the angle they were looking for. And so yes, that's cover. No, that's not cover. I actually had a group of players that didn't quite understand how elevated terrain works with regards to cover. So had to work with them a little bit and use that as a teaching opportunity. And they were really receptive to it. They just didn't know that that's how that worked or understood it. And their local play group had kind of developed a play style that was different than that. So we had to work to make sure that everybody was playing on the same playing field and the same rules. So that was definitely interesting.
Was there a standout moment for you as a judge? Like, was there an impactful call that you had to make that really stood out to you?
Nothing too much. And I try to kind of pull myself away from a lot of the games so I don't get invested in them too much, because when I come over to the table, say Mike and Kyle are playing, I almost don't want to know who's playing what, so that when I make the call, whether it's line of sight or cover or whatever, I don't even know who it's in favor of. I'm just making a rule based on the units that are in play. So I try to almost stay detached from that a little bit. But I don't think anything was too particularly swingy. I did get to see 4 Tauntaun Space General Grievous, though, so that was pretty neat.
How many times did you have to explain the creature trooper rules to somebody?
A few, and actually, I think emplacement troopers were also kind of impactful too, because whether or not you could move through emplacement troopers, and then also how displacement works, because we dealt with obviously some displacement and cover. So just walking people through those steps was pretty important, making sure, especially if you displace the unit leader, that's fixed and put back on the board correctly.
So what's your next project? Is that Las Vegas Open in January?
Yep. And to say that that's my next project, I'm at the same time working on Worlds already, having conversations with Adepticon and with Fantasy Flight as well for that, to run Worlds. So it's always multiple projects at the same time almost. There isn't really any downtime, but I am done for the year calendar-wise. I have no more tournaments. I have a Prime at the beginning of January, and then LVO at the end of January, and then Worlds at the end of March. So those are my next big 3.
Yeah, LVO is going to be a blast. It was super fun last year. So
it's going to be big. Bomb. I mean, the amount of logistics that we have to prep that. I own or have access to about 18 tables, and we're going to need 48. So the question is, where are those other 30 coming from? And so coordinating, talking to the locals, figuring out who's going to be attending, who can bring what. We've got the terrain competition that's going to be going down, and there's going to be some prizes for that. So that's great. I think that was a 5th Trooper sponsored one. Edit that out if you need to.
Nope, Jay's nodding his head. That is accurate.
So yeah, that's we definitely appreciate the sponsorship there. That drives the the incentive for people to participate, and it's really fun to see what people have developed themselves, because of course I look at my terrain all the time. I've been to all these events. A number of people, I like to keep the variety going. So having these guest people bring terrain from their local community is really fun to see as well. So yeah, 48 tables when we're at capacity. That's
that's crazy.
So
if someone listening to the show right now has a table and they want to get a hold of you, how could they do that?
So LJ posted the link, and I'm pulling it up right now while we are live. I did not have that ready to rock. So it's LVO Legion Event at gmail.com, and we need your name, the name of the table, so like what you refer to it when I said Jon Snow or Critical X Beach Resort, something like that we can kind of refer to it on shorthand. We need about 4 to 7 pictures of the table and a short description. And so what we'll be doing is that's available until the 15th of December. Once that's done, we'll have some winners and some people to bring in some finalists that we'd like. and have people bring their tables in for the event. So we definitely we did that with Adepticon, and it was really successful. Some of that final terrain layout will still be, pending approval from LJ and I. So if we need to adjust something around for play balance, we might do that. But for the most part, we like to mostly let people kind of do their usual layouts or whatever they think is fun for that particular table. But with respect to the competition, we want to make sure that it's a somewhat fair board for everybody playing as well.
Awesome. Well, it should be a good time. We're looking forward to it. And you run pretty much.
Yeah.
Sorry,
and
go ahead.
Everybody here is going to make it? Anybody not going to make
it? I'm planning on being there right now. I still got to book my flight, but
yeah, I am presently not planning on making it unless something strange happens. It was that or Adepticon, and I'm going to choose Adepticon. So,
I'm sad I won't have my Rebel Trooper judge. Though.
Yeah, are you going to wear your Imperial Officer uniform again?
Heck no. I might.
Maybe with different
probably
boots.
Not. I don't want another scar on the leg. No, again, obviously I got to meet everybody here last year, and that was great. And I think we buried a few hatchets that weekend, so that was a great time to meet up and get to know everybody a little more personally, and not just a person on the internet. Again, really appreciated your help, in particular, Kyle, Jay helping out sponsoring and setting up. And I think everybody here helped tear down when we hit that critical mass last year, when we had to get everything out of that room. So I don't forget things like that and people who helped me out. And I just wanted to say on the air, I really appreciate you guys helping make that happen.
Yeah, thanks. It was definitely a great. I think that was the first major Legion tournament besides Nova and Gen Con, and it was definitely sort of a coalescing kind of tournament for the Legion community. So it was a great time, and should be another great time this year. So
yeah, hopefully we can get a courier to take all the terrain out of the room this year.
I don't know, it's kind of exciting.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, that's what we do, though, right? We just encounter a problem and we fix it, and hopefully nobody ever sees smoke. But
yep. All right. Well, thanks, man. So when's the next Critical X episode going to be out?
About that. So we've broken up 2 times since we broke up last, and I don't know. Spoiler alert: we may have recorded it.
Oh wow! All right, I'm excited.
Oh boy!
Yeah, breaking news. You heard it here. We'll see if it ever actually hits anybody's ears, though, right? So just because it was recorded doesn't mean anybody will ever hear it. So.
All right. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on.
You guys.
Have a good one. So that was Mr. Franz, and we will look forward to seeing him at Las Vegas Open, which should be a blast. You guys got any final thoughts?
Maybe we need to get Brendan to TO an event at a horse farm.
I'm telling you, man, once you do it once, you'll never go back.
I'm pretty that sounds pretty exciting, actually. I'm hoping. I'm not banking on there being an event at a horse farm in the DC area, but
I don't know. I think that that's not completely outside the realm of possibilities. There's a lot of horse farms in McLean and southern the area in Maryland that's north of the city.
That's true.
We could make it happen. I'm sure I can pull some strings. I know some people.
You know some horse farm owners?
People. Yeah.
But other than that, no, I do not have any final thoughts other than scale and jump is busted and shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah. I mean, in my defense, the only time I did that, the game was kind of over already. But
I know it. Yeah, you're right. You, in your defense, the only time you did it was for Rubbins. You got it. Okay. Moving on.
Something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I gotta see if my thought experiment on can Jedi Luke handle triple tauntauns by himself is going to work, because I gotta face Master of the Force Luke on Friday, who's running that.
I know that we haven't talked about this, but I think I want to have a real serious hot take about whether Serve Your Master Well should even be in this game.
Okay. Let's that sounds like a good hot take for next week.
I think that card is busted AF and shouldn't exist. I'm gonna be frank. I think it's head and shoulders the best command card in the game right now.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. I think General Kenobi is a pretty close second. But yeah,
I don't think it's close.
I
don't think
it's
close.
It's
giving your entire army hit and surge block for a turn is close to that. Okay, that's fair.
The thing is, Serve Your Master is like here. My Death Troopers are gonna delete your like. It's uninteractive.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we will. But
on the next episode,
I think I see where you're heading. Yeah.
It's definitely it has a very unique effect that nothing else does at the moment.
Yeah,
that's definitely true.
On a piece that is already very close to the best piece in the game,
and that as soon as the conditions are met, you can do nothing to stop it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's a teaser for what we'll talk about next week.
More next week.
So we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Mike.
I'm David.
And that's Evan, who also joined us this week.
Oh yeah, hey, thanks for letting me on, guys. I like your podcast. I listen to it all the time.
I like yours too, man.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Stay fresh, cheesebags.
Join us next week for another episode of The Notorious Scoundrels.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.